Hello, and welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, with my co-host,
Jordan Parise.
Jordan Parise's in the house.
Again.
It's like...
regular now.
I know. It's a good thing that your real job lets you be flexible and just show up sometimes.
Yeah, but we do this at 7 p.m., so that's why I'm able to come here, because I'm working all the other times.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I know you're a hard worker, and that's why we've adjusted our times and doing our podcast. All right, so I've been trying to have this guest on for like the entire season, and I think I even tried a few times during the summer, and our schedules just never worked out. Jared Pike. Jared, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. So, Jared, a player from Salt Lake City, Utah, who is playing NCAA, and Jared, you and I barely knew each other. So typically, and Jordan, you were just making fun of me. So most of the guests we have on the show, like, grew up either playing with my son or I knew him from back in the day. But Jared kind of like. I barely even remember meeting you like 2-3 years ago. Is that what you remember as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've always known you, Jay, as being kind of a local goalie. I've seen you at pickup skates here and there, but for the most part, I haven't spent a whole lot of time around you, but I've heard a lot of good things about you. No, I
appreciate it. But and it's funny because I said I remember having a conversation with you one time in a locker room, and I was just kind of getting to know who you are. Tegan told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Jared. You got it. He's playing somewhere." And I was like, "Oh," and you and I were talking back and forth, or I think we were actually kind of arguing about why why the University of Utah couldn't go NCAA, or we were arguing about something, and you were like, you said something about me, and I'm like, "Do you know who I am?" And I didn't mean it like, "Wait a minute, don't you know who I am?" I just was surprised that you knew. I was surprised that you knew who I was, and the funny thing was, I was saying, "Oh yeah, well, I help try to get players out of here because the thing I do is I call Jordan's dad. I say, because he was coaching in the USHL at the time, I'm like, hey, we got a player here. I would like you to take a look at," and then we'd fly him to Des Moines and have your dad evaluate him, or have Marty Miele evaluate him, or
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, Jared, where are you right now?
I'm currently playing for AIC, just living off campus, so I'm at my house right now. I just finished the day off at school and with practice, and just taking it easy right now. So
AIC, American International College.
Yep.
Which is where?
Springfield, Massachusetts, about 90 miles west of Boston.
And believe it or not, you're not our first interview from AIC. We also had a goaltender, Ben Melz. No, I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't remember who.
Meisner.
Was it Meisner? Did he play there?
Yeah, he did. I believe he did, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say his name, but then I was like, wait a minute. No, maybe it wasn't him. So it was him, yeah. So we've had Ben on the show, and Ben was a fun guest as well. So AIC, and it just blows my mind that you're there. You're NCAA, and you guys just clinched your conference again this year, correct?
Correct.
And that's amazing, because last year, nobody saw that coming. You guys just kind of came out of the blue. You're the Cinderella story, and is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, my freshman year, we had a really large class come in. A new coach named Eric Lang had just taken over the program from long-term coach Gary Wright. And our first year was just kind of adjusting, getting used to AIC and the college lifestyle. Our second year, we were kind of, we started winning more games, but we were still kind of on the backside of the conference. And then last year, the team was kind of older. We had more experience, and just kind of the second half last year, we found our game, and ever since then we've never looked back. And now we've just continued that into the season.
Yeah, and how did you get out of Utah? Like, where did you grow up playing?
So I first started when I was 4 years old. My parents had to lie to the Salt Lake County program about my age because I was just so obsessed with hockey. Like, I would wear my helmet to school and try to take my stick to school and wear my skates to bed, and I was just all over the game ever since I had my first memories. And so I played for the county program for 2 or 3 years, and then I played 1 year with the Utah Stars, 2 or 3 years with the Wamaha Junior Grizzlies.
Yeah.
And then I went over to the Davis County Eagles for 1 year, and then the Utah Regulators for 3. And then I ended up going to California for the LA Junior Kings. Was my first year outside of Utah.
So what age group was that? Sorry, Jordan.
I was going to ask how old he was.
I'm a 95 birth year, so I just turned 24 last December.
No, I mean when you left Utah and then went out to LA.
Oh, I was 17.
Okay.
All right. So that was so was that Junior A with the Kings, or what was that?
That was U18 AAA.
Oh, okay. So man, I'm just clueless about what, like when you were playing here and how you got out of here. So, who was on your Eagles team? Was that like when Brickley was playing there and Sam Taylor and those guys? Was that your?
That was actually, so I was on the very first Eagles team. That was, I think, 1 or 2 years after I played there. On this team was Andrew Berklist, Travis Corey, Landon Ayler. My brother Brandon Pike was on the team.
Okay.
Jonah Bolton, Dakota Glines was our goaltender. So.
Oh yeah, Dakota. Okay. All right. So.
Yeah.
I remember Dakota.
Yeah, of course you do. Dakota he's a character. He came to all your goalie camps. Tell me about, like, at what point do you realize you're going to actually get to play? Like, where did you go after LA? Where did you play juniors?
So from LA, I was drafted into the NAHL by Bismarck Bobcats, and that's where I played. I had 2 years of eligibility after my second year of U18. I played both years there, and then it was like April of my last year in Bismarck, I committed to AIC.
What was that process for you?
It was pretty tough. Like, I mean, playing in the North American League, you play so many games, and being an age out, I hadn't had a whole lot of interest up until after the Top Prospects tournament, which is held in February every year. And I just battled my way through it, and started talking to AIC a bit and a couple other teams. And once Lang was hired, they called me. I think it was actually the day after Lang was hired here. The assistant coach at the time was Mike Towns, and called me and offered me a spot on the team. And I did my research on Lang, and it only took me about, I think, 8 hours. And I think the same day I called him back and said, "Hey, I'm in. Like, I want to be a part of this. I want to go in and help turn this thing around."
So you didn't go through.
It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you didn't go through the process of flying out there and doing an official visit or anything?
Nope, never got a visit. Just committed off of my own research, and showed up the following August. Never had been to the school, and just kind of played it by ear.
That is awesome. When you made that transition from juniors in the North American Hockey League into NCAA D1, what did you expect, or what was unexpected when you came in? The level of play, the speed, the people that you were playing against. I mean, I see right now you guys are 20th, and when I was in college, AIC was in the process of their rebuilding, for lack of a better term. And, so now I can see that it's just been year over year where this organization has gotten better and better. So when you came in, like, what was the biggest transition for you?
For my game, so I'm 6'4". I'm a tall forward. I play a really gritty, hard-nosed game. And in the North American League, I basically just had, free will to just go out and run around, finish every check, and play kind of an uncontrolled game because, the defensemen in that league would sometimes panic with the puck, and it was really effective. But the transition to college, it was way more of a controlled game, a lot more pre-scout, a lot more, penalty kill, power play scouting goes into it, a lot more, like, your neutral zone coverage changes every game depending on your opponent. And for me, it was adjusting to more controlled, and, sometimes I couldn't be as aggressive as I wanted to because I had to, smart pressure and stick detail, and it was just mostly the control of the game, and the overall pace was a little bit faster, the passes were a little bit crisper, but it was just mostly the control of the game.
What about you as far as making sure that you're up to task as far as training, cardio, actual strength, skill development, all of that, that entire process is once you became a Division I player, is that something that is you're constantly, getting better at every day? Are you going to the rink before practice, after practice? I mean, what's your process?
Yeah, it is. And actually, the toughest thing about that, because, in juniors, kids are really taking it serious these days too, but throwing in a full-time, schedule for classes was a big adjustment because in juniors you practice in the morning and work out in the morning, then you have the whole day to yourself to do whatever you want.
Just go play Call of Duty and stuff.
Like, yeah, play Call of Duty, Fortnite, whatever it might be, which was a lot of fun. But coming here, it was like, man, I got class. So I'd get up in the morning. I remember my freshman year, my first semester, we'd have like workouts every day through September, and then I'd have morning classes. Then we'd practice around like 1 or 2 o'clock. And then I think on Monday nights and Wednesday nights, I even had night class. So it was like an all-day thing. And it was like, man, this is like, I'm used to it now. But at first it was like, man, this is a lot of work. And trying to, eat properly in the dining commons because you don't really choose what you eat. They have 1 or 2 meals and you kind of got to eat it and do your best.
Yeah, you got to decide between a salad and sloppy joes.
Yeah, exactly. And, every school kind of faces that, that problem to some extent at least. And, so trying to be on the top of my training game, which I had been in juniors, and then, translating that to college, that was probably the toughest part, was just, the classes and all the pre-scout that goes in every game, and you have to memorize plays and coverages, and, it was a lot at first.
So then now you're in your senior year. What have you learned more about the college game in preparation for, whatever the next step is for you, whether it be, professional here or overseas or whatever? How does everything look for you going forward?
Well, I think the biggest skill I've learned here is just to be coachable and pay attention to detail, because when a coach says something once, they don't want to repeat themselves. And you don't want to be the guy that goes out and, misses a shot block or doesn't execute the team game plan.
The drill buster.
The reason, a drill gets messed up or you lose a game in the third period because something happens or whatever. So that was something that I've learned, and that's a skill I think going forward, into the pro game, I think would be, a great asset to have, because it's a meat market there, and if you're not doing the job, you're out of there. And so, you got to really be dialed into details.
Well, honestly, that cerebral, like the way you're talking about all this stuff right now, that's the huge difference between a guy that plays your style coming out of the NA, making it and not making it in the NCAA, because it doesn't always fit out of the NA. Like a big bruising guy like you, finishing checks all the time, does typically end up getting caught out of position, or does, it just doesn't seem to fit the NCAA mold as well. That's why the little guys do so well there, is they're, it's less physical, more cerebral, and it sounds like you really made that adjustment to me. And it sounds like you keep making that adjustment, and you've really grown on the intellectual part of the game, the hockey IQ part.
Just being a student of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that hockey IQ that's made you successful at this level.
Yeah, it really is, because, I've always kind of had, it was my last year in Bismarck, I started working really hard, and, I really carried that work ethic. And so it's never a work ethic thing or I'm faulted, at first it was just, I hadn't been exposed to, the style of play before. And I've really been a student of the game, really dedicated myself to the penalty kill. And actually our penalty kill here at AIC is currently 4th in the nation. So that's, something that I take a lot of pride in.
Yeah,
that could help me
at the next level.
Yeah,
out of that,
yeah, you
like
can.
Trevor.
And it's something that, and it's the penalty kill alone is a lot of work, because every team, could throw a different look at you, and you've got to be prepared for it, whether it shows up in the pre-scout or not. So it's, it's the penalty kill actually is a lot of work to prepare for.
I find that with a lot of Utah players, though, that they find themselves at a level, and I talked about this a lot with Mason Manick, is that, he grew up being coached by guys like me that have a brief knowledge of the game, or other, we're doing our best, and then they get, all of a sudden he's playing for Joe Sakic, and they're being taught every level of the game, and we just didn't expose our youth to a lot of the fundamentals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with especially with some of the youth teams that I'm coaching, the 16-year-old teams, there are certain things where it's like, hey, we're going to work on our neutral zone transition today, but then you get on the ice and a guy can't catch a puck, or a guy doesn't know how to keep his head up, or doesn't know how to grip his stick. These are the things that you run into in, and obviously Utah has done a tremendous job in the last few years of changing that, or at least addressing it more often. But it certainly has been a problem, going forward is just there's all these fundamentals that were not addressed at an early age, and right away, like a lot of kids from Utah, just start right behind the 8 ball. So if you're not a student of the game, it's really difficult to catch up.
Your dad used to always tell me, give me a player that if they can skate and they can shoot and pass, I'll teach them the game.
Right.
Because he knew that when I was sending players out of Utah, and I get the same thing from Peter Menino. He's like, hey, they kind of know what they're getting with our Utah players. But that being said, that's 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Now we got guys like Jared and Rick Lee and Nick Halloran. So, and speaking of that, last summer, I don't know if you remember saying this, Jared, we're all sitting in the locker room, and I don't remember which one of you said it, but you look at Brickley and you're like, hey, remember when we sucked? Do you remember this? Do you remember this conversation?
It was probably in the County Ice Center locker room, I'm guessing. I think I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was funny because here you guys were sincere about it. You were like, hey, remember like 4 years ago when we sucked and now we've worked our butts off and we're good now and we're bigger and we're like, he's in the A and you're on your way. You're in the NCAA. And it's just, to me, I say that I think it's funny for one, but I also think it like everybody needs to know that. And I keep pointing it out with Trevor and I keep pointing it out with Daniel, and it kind of makes him mad every once in a while, but he wasn't great. But he kept working.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't give up, right? There were times like he was growing so fast too that, he would fumble around. Like you were just wondering how he's going to tie his skates, let alone perform on the ice. And then now he's a phenomenal player. And now you're a phenomenal player. And it's just, I want everybody else to know that there's a process and that you're not always at your best. And whether it's...
Oh, yeah.
So tell me a little bit. Do you remember those times? What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, me and Daniel, our first year of U18 hockey, it was actually both of us. It was our last year in Utah, and we were playing for the Regulators. I think we were Team Northwest Regulators at the time. They've changed their name now a couple of times, and we were playing in the North American Prospects League. And I don't think our team even had a win until like February. And when we got the win, the boombox was playing at full blast, and guys were jumping around the locker room. And you would have thought that we had just won, like the Stanley Cup. And I think it was like the Omaha Junior Lancers we beat. But it was like, yeah, like man, I was kind of like at that point in my career, I was like, man, like I don't even know if I could even play like Junior B. Like I was scared of Junior B because I had never been exposed to such a fast play style. And going to California, I was fortunate enough to make that team and slowly ease myself into, more coaching and more, ways to develop my game. But I mean, I remember, even playing for like, the Eagles or the Omaha Junior Grizzlies or, even in my younger days, the Stars, whoever it was, there was times when we'd go play like the LA Selects or the Phoenix Firebirds or Coyotes at the time. And there were games when we really got destroyed by those teams. And I mean, I remember it like it was like, man, what are these kids doing or eating to make them so much better than us? But, people peak at different times. And, just sticking with the process is huge because, I mean, my path wasn't pretty. I was always, a second-year guy at U18, had to go my age-out year through juniors, playing through 4 years of college. I mean, it's never a pretty path for some guys, but it's just, how hard you're willing to work and are you willing to earn it? That's what it comes down to.
So going to LA, did you just go for a tryout? Was that, you just took a leap of faith and went for a tryout and made the team?
Yeah, I did. I just said, hey man, like they wear those purple and gold jerseys. And I was a Kings fan. The Kings were coming off of their 2012 Stanley Cup run. And I was like, man, like this would be sweet. So I just Googled LA Junior Kings coach. His name is Jack Bokus. Shoot him an email, and he goes, come to this Cali camp. It's like an exposure camp that he runs for Southern California hockey players. And I think it's in April just to get exposed to like junior teams and college teams. And I went on there, and he's like, yeah, I like you. Come back for the official tryout in June or whatever it was. Went there, was lucky enough to make the team, and I just never looked back. I knew right away that I wanted to go down there and, at least give it a shot. I've made it that far. Why not,
And what did your parents think of that?
It was, it wasn't cheap. So they, but, we made it work. And, they were very supportive the whole way, and they wanted me to live out my dream just like they still do to this day. And, they were, without them, I would never have even had the opportunity. So, I mean, they were very supportive, and, it was tough. First year leaving home and, going to Southern California, where there's more traffic and a lot more people and more diversity, I had to adjust. But, I think it was, not only for hockey, but as a person, I did a lot of growing away from home.
Yeah, I bet. I was talking to a player last, 2 days ago. He was telling me, he's just like, because I asked him, I said, why? He's one of the best players I've seen around, and he's just rough around the edges. And I asked him where he played. He told me he basically just stayed playing in Utah always. And he just said, I never took the leap of faith to leave the market. I just stayed here and, played at the University of Utah. And I just look at him and I think, man, that's one of those kids that just, if he would have left, he could easily be a next level player. He has all the tools. He just didn't have the coaching and then didn't get the exposure.
But you got to go to the right situation too.
Yeah.
I was just talking with a goalie that's from here, and he was considering going into the NA3HL, which is one of those pay-to-play leagues.
Yep.
And, and I just told his mom, like, hey, listen, I would wait until this is your last resort, because those leagues they want people that want to pay, and so they're, but you have to, if you were to tell a 16-year-old kid, hey, you should go play in the NA3HL right now, like, I don't think that would be the appropriate answer.
Right.
Or the appropriate advice.
U18 or AAA hockey, that's what I would look forward to.
Right.
If I was 16, try to get them there.
Yeah, I'm again, if the NA3 is your only, and that's stepping up and that's stepping out for you, then that's the right choice. But
at the end of the day,
I hardly think it is. Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, like, the place where you have an opportunity to play is the best place for you to play. If you don't have an opportunity anywhere else, like, you got to go.
Yeah.
But that's an awesome story, Jared. That's great that you stepped out and went after something, and you're fortunate enough to have that sort of be a springboard for you.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a ride, and I hope that moving forward I can keep taking the game to the next level and just keep this thing rolling, because it's been a lot of work, but every second, every team, every memory has been worth it.
How many games do you guys have left? Because I know that you're just on the outside of the NCAA tournament. So how does that work for you guys?
So we have 2 more regular season games here. Wednesday night we're at Sacred Heart, and then Saturday night we're at Army, and that will conclude our regular season. And then we actually secured a bye for the first round of Atlantic hockey playoffs. So we'll have home ice in a best-of-3 series against the last seed that wins out through the first round.
Okay.
And then if we win that, we'll go to the Final Four of our Atlantic Hockey Conference tournament play, which is hosted in Buffalo, New York. The first seed will play the 4 seed. The 2 seed will play the 3 seed. Just single elimination, and then the winners of each game play for the final. And then out of our conference, the winner of that championship will go on to the NCAA regionals.
Is Mercyhurst in your conference?
Yeah, they are.
So I haven't looked to see where they are statistically. Is there a chance that it could be you against Metcalf?
Mercyhurst, they're having a bit of a down year. I think right now they're like 3-20.
A bit of a down year.
I saw they got swept by Army, but I didn't. Wow. Okay.
But actually, Metcalf's been playing really well. They were here, Springfield, actually, just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We played them here, and we won both games. But man, Metcalf, he stood on his head both nights. He's so big and so sound positionally. You've got to get traffic in front of him. He's so tough to beat on the first shot that you've really got to get him moving side to side if you want to score on him.
Yeah.
But we could, if they get hot, we could run into them, in the first or second round. You never know.
That would be awesome. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the Utah boys battle it out. I always think it's fun, but obviously I'd like to see you guys both do well as well. But we'll take what we can get. I didn't know they were having that kind of a season. I guess I should follow closer.
Yeah, they're having. Yeah, my first 3 years here, they were. Especially my sophomore year, I think they won the regular season. They've had a lot of talent go through there in the last couple of years. They've had some really good players.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. I'm excited to see what happens for you guys. I'm hoping the best for you, and that things go really well for AIC. You have another Utah connection on that team. With I'm trying to. Is it who's there from the
Matu Spodniak?
Spodniak, yeah, such a great kid, such an unreal player.
Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah, he's one of those few kids that actually he might be the only kid that went into the Western States League and went Division I straight out of the league.
Yeah.
You know, he had like 150 points and like a fourth as many games played. Like, I mean, it was just, you know, he just tore the league apart. So
yeah, it's just one of those things that it's hard to judge a player in the Western States League. This is my only complaint about the league. I get a lot of grief because some people say I bag on it or whatever, and I did just have a discussion an argument online when somebody said the Outliers were as good as the Grizzlies, and I had a discussion with him about it, and I have nothing bad to say about the league, but you do have the Ogden Mustangs, the Outliers, and Hinton or whatever. You have these teams that are running through and they're putting up 15 goals a night. So you have a player like Spodniak who ends up with like 130 points in 30 games. Or 50 games or whatever, and you're just like, how's that kid going to translate into NCAA Division I? But with Spodniak, like, you could tell the talent was there. He just liked playing in Ogden. He probably could have played somewhere else.
Oh, he definitely could have played somewhere else, you know. But he had the right connections there, and he had a good setup there, and you know, he was given the opportunity here, and you know, it's been a bit of an adjustment for him, but he shows up at the rink every day with a smile on his face, and his work ethic is, you know, second to none. He shows up every day and works, and I mean, he's just been great to have here. He's really been a great culture guy for this program, and you know, I think it'll continue that way for him.
So, what words of advice do you have for any other guys that are listening to you right now that are trying to follow your footsteps?
I just, you know, you hear a lot of people say trust the process, and you know, I got to say that's like, I mean, for me, that's the way to go, because you know, like I said before, your story that the book you're currently writing might not be pretty, you know, and being from Utah, you know, we're not born in Michigan, we're not born in Minnesota, you know, you got to accept the facts, you're from Utah, and you really got to be a student of the game and study the game, you know, give yourself a chance to make some of these, you know, these teams outside of Utah, because, you know, politics are always involved, and it might not be the easiest thing to do, but you know, like they say, if you're good enough, they'll find you, and that's definitely true. Like if you work hard enough and you play the right way, you know, teams, you know, for these younger guys, you know, they'll be found. They will, you know, get to where they want to go. It's just, you know, are you willing to work for it?
Perfect.
Awesome, Jared. I hope you have an awesome long career, man. You're right at the right at that brink, right at the threshold for making this something pretty unique. So good luck, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for having me on. It's been a joy.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm excited to see what happens with AIC, and I'm really excited to see what happens with you next. And Jordan and I are going to make some phone calls and see if we can't get more people looking at you. Hopefully, help you with that next step.
Yeah, that'd be great, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, tune into AIC hockey here in the next month or so. We're looking to make some more noise and continue. You know, last year we were just one game away from making that Frozen Four, so you know, we're looking to follow the same footsteps here. Well,
know that all of Utah is behind you.
Oh yeah, I appreciate the support, and you know, hope to go out and represent well.
All right, Jared Pike, you've made us all proud, and that is today's Utah Puck Report.